When should you convert a side hustle to a full-time business? This is a very important question because I realize that more and more people are taking on side hustles because they may have realized that their job is not as secure as they think. So it's growing by the year. And that comes to an important time when you realize that should you take your side hustle to become full-time instead of just staying as a side hustle because you want to expand the business and maybe your income. Coincidentally, this was exactly the situation that I have been in more than 2 years ago. So I'll share some of my personal thoughts and reflections around this question. Maybe it can help to advise some of you or even suggest a better move that you can make. For context, I started YouTube as a side hustle from January 2021, and I fully take on this side hustle to become a full-time business in January 2023. That was when I quit my job to take it full-time. So you can see from the timeline that it is around 2 years after I started as a side hustle, then doing it as a full-time business. Then if you ask me, how did I decide to convert from a side hustle to a full-time business? I guess it was a mix of three factors. And number one was financial readiness. Number two was market demand. And number three was personal alignment. And I'll elaborate on some of these factors that affected my thinking back then so that you can then take a mental note if it applies to you. Let's talk about the most important factor, money. And that means consistent revenue and profit for your side hustle. It is very obvious that when one wants to start a business, they want to earn money. All right. Nobody wants to start a business to lose money. So money, and to be precise, income is the most important factor. You want to be sure that your side hustle is already generating revenue and, more importantly, profits for at least 12 months. In fact, if you ask me, I only started to think about converting my side hustle to a business starting from the 12 months of consistent profits. So it's not like I executed on the 12th month. 12 months of consistent profits. Then I started to think, is it viable as a business full-time? The next question is then, how much profits or how much income do you consider to be enough? I would say that if you look at the median income of Singapore, which is $5,500 per month based on MOM statistics, and that's including employer's contribution, you should be making at least 80% of the median income, which means $4,400 monthly. And this is because after you started as a full-time business, you are going to pay yourself CPF. So you have to take that in consideration, all right? And why I use median income instead of like average pay or your last drawn salary is because if you can meet at least 80% of the median income, I don't think you have a problem with survival, right? Because you want to take care of your food, your shelter, all your basic necessities. Which brings me to the next point, is that you have to be prepared for a huge income drop as you are losing your day job income, your corporate job full-time income. Assuming you were earning $5,000 in your day job, now that you're converting your side hustle to a full-time business, maybe it's making you $5,000 of side hustle income per month, and you have a $5,000 monthly full-time job. Now you're taking half of it away already. Okay, in the past you used to make 10K combined. Now you take half of it away. That's a very drastic drop, which is what I experienced. So if you look at it, your first few months of starting a full-time business, it may look quite devastating because you just lost half of your income, 50% just gone like that. Which brings me to the number two factor that you should consider, which is your emergency savings are in place. Because like I said, when you start out a business, you are on your own already. You are trying to generate revenue and profit on your end. If you don't have a financial base or financial safety net, like 12 months of emergency savings, then you would think of giving up this business and go back to corporate all again. And the truth is, many people have not thought about their emergency savings and they just ventured headlong into the business. Of course, there are some that succeeded, but many of them have failed as well. So make sure you have at least 12 months of emergency savings. I guess that's around 20,000 Singapore dollars should be enough to at least tide you over the months that you cannot earn a good income to supplement your basic needs. So this emergency savings is really important because it acts as a safety buffer to help you tide you through low months where you're not earning like enough income, or there may be unexpected expenses that you may have to incur. Moving on to point 3 is legal and structural readiness. Are you ready to become a business owner? Because I know that a lot of you, when you're doing side hustles, you just want to be like a solo contributor, right? You enjoy doing this at a small scale. You just don't want to scale it up, right? You are comfortable in this position. You are happy just doing it part-time, doing it on a temporary basis or project basis while having a full-time job to keep you secure. And I totally get it. There's nothing wrong in staying in this comfortable state. But if you are ready to become a business owner, then you must be ready for new responsibilities. Because now you will be operating as a company, which is a totally different ballgame compared to an individual side hustle. You have to take care of taxes, increased liabilities, and salary, and even manpower if you are hiring someone to become your employee. So are you ready to manage taxes, accounting, and additional compliance details that you may not have to worry as an individual side hustler, but now you have to manage it for a separate legal entity as a business owner? But don't be too afraid yet, because I was once like you, like totally don't know what I'm doing when I started my business. But don't worry, there are professionals helping you to do it. And one good example is Osome, a professional service that can help you incorporate your company and get everything started. Osome is a one-stop solution that can help you register a company and also added services like corporate secretary and accounting services. For the incorporation and secretary package, we are looking at $600 before discounts, which was exactly what I have chosen back then in 2023 when I wanted to incorporate my company. And even now in 2025, I am still using Osome services, so that speaks volume of how good they are. What I really like about Osome is that all the documents can be signed and stored online on the Osome app for easy reference and documentation when you need it the most. Click the link in the description to get 16% off Osome services if you are serious in starting a business just like me. Now, the fourth factor that you should consider when you want to convert a side hustle to a full-time business is when you have a growing client base and you have time constraints. Now, imagine a scenario. You're getting more client inquiries, more projects coming in, and you really have limited time because you have a full-time job, right? So you cannot take on more projects. And you realize that these projects may pay multiple times better than your original day job. So you will need the time and effort to spend on these projects and earn a higher income compared to your day job. So instead of doing your day job from 9 to 6 p.m. and then going home 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., rushing out the projects and, suffering your personal life and personal time for your family, I think it may be good to consider a cost versus benefit analysis. Which one do you have more passion in, your day job or your side hustle? And if your side hustle is getting so much more rewards and so much more fulfillment and most importantly, higher income, then why not take this time to consider switching it to a full-time business? Because that clearly means that there is market demand, there are repeat customers, and maybe some will pay you a retainer fee just for you to help them upkeep and maintain the status quo. Now, there comes to a point where you realize that your full-time job may be hindering your side hustle opportunities. Like, for example, some of your clients, they prefer to work during the daytime, and you cannot do it because of your day job. So you have to sacrifice some clients because of that. And that may come to a crossroad where you decide this daytime corporate job is hindering my progress for my side hustle, and I need the additional time during the daytime 9 to 6 p.m. to complete the client's project and more fulfilling. So that's when you need to pull the trigger and switch it out to a full-time business owner. Now let's talk about the final reason, emotional readiness. Because like I mentioned earlier, some of you are just happy and comfortable doing it as a side hustle, but may not really fancy doing it as a full-time business, because now all your resources, all your time and your effort is dedicated on this new baby, which is your newborn business. So as a new business owner, you have to be mentally ready of the uncertainty of entrepreneurship, like in months of low income and low customer revisits, which is highly different from your daytime corporate job, because your income is fixed, right? Every month, you just take a salary coming in, credit to your bank account. That feels really nice. But that's not how it works for entrepreneurship. If you work, then you get the income. If you don't work, or if you're sick, or if you are hospitalized, then there's no income coming your way unless you have people working for you. So as a business owner, you have to be passionate and committed for the long term, with sacrifices of personal time and other things that come along your way. Because you don't just work 7 to 11 p.m. now, you work 24/7. In fact, some of you just want to escape the corporate rat race thinking you can escape the 9 to 5, but you realize you're working like 24/7, because even during your sleep, you're thinking about how the business can survive. How can they pay the next month employee's salary without going bankrupt? So having said all the factors that could push you to become a business owner, switching up your side hustle, I'll give you some red flags, some considerations, and some situations where you should not even convert because of these situations. Number one, which is the most important reason, you are just relying on one big client or just like 2 or 3 big clients to secure your income for the current month and the next month. And if this client is gone, then your entire business cannot function, cannot earn revenue. All right, that is very scary because your income is not diversified enough. Because one day, if your client decides not to take on your projects anymore, you're screwed. So most importantly, diversify your income sources, diversify your clients, increase more products that can cater to more different group of clients. And number two red flag that you should not convert a side hustle to a full-time business is that you are just trying to escape from your daytime corporate job. All right, because you're not running into something, you're running away, right? Because you are in denial. You think that entrepreneurship, business owner will be a better life. I can assure you, it will not, because you are running away from something that is hard to something that is even harder. So the mindset is really not correct. You need to have the business owner mindset that you're taking on a much higher responsibility, and this may be even more difficult than your daytime corporate job. So I know that there are a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges of starting a business, being an entrepreneur and all that stuff, but don't let what I said discourage you from switching that side hustle to be a full-time business, because I'm thinking to start a B2B business community to really help new entrepreneurs, new solopreneurs, gather and share resources, help each other out, right? Because we are all new here. Maybe we don't know what we are doing yet. And it's going to be my second business starting from year 2026, right? So I'm really focusing on business owners, which is why it's a B2B business, all right? So comment B2B plus one if you're interested in joining this business community. I'll see what I can do. And even if you're not a business owner, you can join over 21,000 like-minded people interested in personal finance, in expanding their income sources and building their wealth for early retirement in the long term. Join us at Honey Money SG Telegram. Now, one pro tip I can give you for those people who are considering to switch but still have some apprehensions is that you test the full-time viability before quitting your real corporate job. Take annual leaves, take sabbaticals, reduce your work hours, or just take a fractional role. Nowadays, there are so many fractional roles like fractional chief marketing officer or something like that. People just work 2 or 3 days full-time in the company. Then they work on their other ventures. But that's all assuming your company, your full-time company allows for it, because not all companies are that generous. So I really understand where some of you are coming from. So if you really need to take a leap, remember to consider Osome to incorporate your business and get 16% off discount using my exclusive link in description. And if you're wondering, starting a business, isn't it very expensive? There's so much cost of running. Then I can assure you it's not as high as you think. And I'll go through it in how much cost are you expected to run a business in this video right here.